Hi, this is Joe here with another review. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be discussing the 1943 horror movie classic, Frankenstein Meets The Wolfman. I know I'm getting a little, 5 months early for doing, horror films, but I figured, to do these videos and get a jump on a lot of other people. Of course, this is not the first horror movie sequel that Universal has done. They've done one with Dracula's daughter in the 30s, a decade earlier. Plus, also they did a couple of the Frankenstein films, also in the 30s, with Bride Frankenstein in 1935. After, of course, 1931, when they really hit it big with Dracula and Frankenstein in 1931, and they just kept producing other movie series early in the 30s, and now in the 40s, they kept rehashing a lot of the horror movie series, and this is just another one. Of course, I think this one was really the first movie where they had two of the classic monster movie characters into one film. I think this might be the first one that they did that had two classic monster villains in the same film. So it's this one. Boris Karloff pretty much at this point stopped portraying the monster in his movies, or the Frankenstein monster. So this time you had Bela Lugosi, ironically, who was originally supposed to be playing the Frankenstein monster, the original Frankenstein. This is the only time that Lugosi actually physically played the monster. And of course, also they brought back. Sorry, but that's the motorcycle outside. This also brought back Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. And of course, this movie is almost practically a direct sequel to the Wolfman more than the Frankenstein series, even though it has the monster in it, only in a couple of scenes. This one, even though it takes place 2 years after the original Wolfman movie in 1941, and based on the Universal Universe, try to say that 5 times. This movie takes place about 4 years after the events of the original Wolfman film. And of course, it's almost in every one of these movies is almost like a theme in the Universal monster films, at least in the early films, where you have a scene where a couple of guys are grave robbers. I mean, there was a theme in the Frankenstein films, and they continue that theme in this one. And there's a couple of guys who go into the crypt where Larry Talbot, who of course was the Wolfman's character, to rob his grave because they heard that he was buried with his money, or at least the money that he had on him when he died. And of course, you look over and you see the grave of Larry Talbot's father, John Talbot, who in the original Wolfman movie played by Claude Rains, the Invisible Man. So you find out what happened to Larry Talbot's father in this thing. That he died soon after he killed his own son in the end of the Wolfman. So at least you have some continuity in their sequel. Well, when the grave robbers opened up his grave, Larry Talbot came back from the dead because he was powered by the full moon, which transformed him into, of course, the Wolfman. And he goes after the two guys, the two grave robbers, but only one of them got caught and was killed. Even though they actually see the killing, is more implied that they see his body there later on. They try to figure out what happened to Larry Talbot's body. Meanwhile, in a town like a few blocks away, where the mausoleum was, that's when they found Larry Talbot's body, or a cop did. And so they brought him to the local hospital and said, "Oh, how come I'm right here?" And trying to figure out what happened to him. And the doctors the surgeon figured out that he had a skull fracture, and the surgeon trying to do his best to repair it. He said, "How?" And the doctor trying to figure out, "How did you get the skull fracture?" And he didn't really excuse me. And that Larry was pretty vague about it, and Larry gave his name and Larry Talbot. And when they found out, they gave the information to the cop or the detective who was assigned to the case, and he found out that Larry Talbot died 4 years earlier. So how can this guy, Larry Talbot, come back from the dead? It's impossible. And he says, I am Larry Talbot. And he saw the score, the pentagram signing the werewolf, and he told his whole backstory that he was attacked, trying to save someone who was being attacked by a wolf, and he killed the wolf. And while I was killing him, he bit me, and he found out he was a werewolf. And I got the bite of the score of the mark of the wolf, and every time there's a full moon, I turn into a werewolf. And I turn into a wolfman every time there's a full moon. And the doctors in the cops thought that the guy was nutsy cuckoo. And I tried to lock him up and put him in a straitjacket. And one night he broke out of the straitjacket and escaped the hospital, and he attacked somebody. Attacked and killed somebody when he was the Wolfman. And of course he tried to, when Larry Talbot escaped from the hospital, he was trying to track down the old gypsy woman, who was, the gypsy woman from the first movie. She reprised her role, and she was great. The actress who played, I know she had like a Maria, and she had like a Greek last name, which is hard to pronounce, but I thought she was great as that character. And I know she didn't do that many movies, or known for that many movies, but she's known for this one, playing the gypsy woman, telling him about the wolf, or how a wolf could be killed by a silver bullet, or a knife with a silver handle, and all that stuff from the original Wolfman film. So we praised her role in this one, and I thought she did a great job. And we're praising her role. And since she found out that he was still alive, when the gypsy woman found out that Larry Talbot was still alive, she offered to help him, or to try to help cure his him being a werewolf, or maybe to kill him. I said, look, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to try and find somebody to help you. And she decided to go to Dr. Frankenstein. Of course, the Dr. Frankenstein I'm referring to is the one who was in the Son of Frankenstein movie. And they found out that he had died in the fire and trying to revive his father's experiments and stuff. So what Larry Talbot did was he tracked down the Frankenstein's daughter, or should I say the Frankenstein's granddaughter, as it came out, or the daughter of the Son of Frankenstein from the Son of Frankenstein film, and trying to convince her. Larry Talbot was trying to convince her to get for the diary from her father, so he could try and get rid of his werewolfism, and maybe die from her father's experiments. So eventually he gets the diary, and then when he does this, he set up the experiment, and the doctor who tracks him down, who tried to help him early in the film, tracked Larry down and says, look, okay, if you're so gung-ho about this, I'm trying to help you with from Frankenstein's diary with all of his notes and from experiments, and try to redo that. And when that's going on, they find, by having to stumble across the Frankenstein monster, who of course escapes. And like I said earlier, it was played by Bela Lugosi, and the only time that Lugosi ever played the Frankenstein monster was in this movie. And of course he runs amok, and then of course Larry Talbot and Larry decide to come the monster down, and they go to this lab, or the remains of Frankenstein's lab, to drain the energy out of both Larry and the monster. But the doctor took over, decided to stiff him and try to revive the monster, or trying to transfer Larry's life energy to the monster. And it was a crazy experiment, and of course Larry figures it out, and or so to say, Frankenstein's daughter figures what's going on and tries to stop it, and then Larry just tries to stop it, and then he transforms into the wolf, or to the Wolfman, and then you have the big fight scene between the Frankenstein monster and the Wolfman, which was, I have to admit, was a pretty good fight scene, even though it takes place like 3/4 of the way through the film. It was a good fight scene. Of course, what happens is the two of them were fighting so that they blew up. Major spoiler for those who didn't see the movie. They blew up the lab, and the doctor and Frankenstein's daughter escape. And you see, it's kind of like similar to an ending to Brian Frankenstein, where the two of them escape, and the monster accidentally blows himself up in the end of the film. But having admitted, it is good. It is really the first time I've really seen the full film. I think I said it once before on YouTube before it was taken down, but because of the copyright rules, we all know how most of us feel about copyright rules of YouTube. But I happened to see it really for the first time, and I really liked this movie. I mean, it wasn't a bad film, because some of the other films are kind of silly, kind of really crazy. Some of the other films, like The House of Frankenstein or the Curse of Frankenstein, and the other films in the series. But this one was really big, and you really do feel sympathy for Larry Talbot, and he was like one of the few of the monster movies of the classic Universal monster films where you actually do feel sorry for him. The problem is that all these monsters always keep dying at the end of these movies, and then the next film that they make, whether it was Frankenstein, Dracula, or the Wolfman, or the Mummy, they always magically they're trying to revive them at the beginning of the next film, which is kind of like they use the same premise almost for the slasher films that I grew up with in the 80s, with Halloween and Friday the 13th and stuff. They really got that premise from watching the Universal horror films, because they used that premise then. Oh, these guys can't be killed type stuff. But in terms of Frankenstein Meets The Wolfman, it's I really do like this movie, and if anybody who's a fan of the old Universal horror films, don't pass over this one, because it's really a good film, especially when you happen to be a fan of the Wolfman, which I happen to be. So that's my review of Frankenstein Meets The Wolfman. Please click on the video, please rate it, feel free to comment on it. Please subscribe to my channel, please share this video on your Facebook pages. You can watch all my videos on my YouTube channel at rallyc.com, so WDY.com. The homepage of the Rally Reviewer, Christine Moore. Please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.